Hello and a pleasant and very good Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to the May 27th edition of the Day Weather Podcast. Summer-like weather is here, folks, for the rest of the week and into the weekend. Everybody ready for it. Sunny mornings, cloud buildup in the afternoons. You know the routine around here, how it works once we get into summer. You just tend to get into a pattern where it seems like the days aren't that much different. Some thunderstorms will come out of those clouds building up in the afternoon hours, so we do need to be ready for the occasional thunderstorm popping up. And we'll take a look at that. Very warm this weekend into early next week. In fact, 80s and some 90s will be found in some areas this weekend. We will cool off a little bit, not dramatically so, but by the middle to the end of next week, not as warm. We'll also give you an update on where we're standing with La Nina, El Nino, and how things are looking heading into the summer. This is where we are with the jet stream right now. We've got this upper level low in the southern plains. There can be severe weather down here. There's also a system here, Bertha, we'll talk about in a minute. We also have an upper level low off the California coast. This little guy right here is going to swing in next week and bring us some weather. We've got an upper level low up here. So actually kind of a busy weather pattern, but the broad pattern with the jet stream is building a ridge that's going to be heading east into the Rockies, and you can see that a little bit further on. In the short term here, over the next 3.5 days, this is the precipitation forecast. You can see the green and the gray and the blue. You can see, look at the spine of the mountains here. Notice that the mountains are going to initiate the showers and thunderstorms here over the coming days. Where all you see this green and blue and gray here, this is where you get the heat build up. Then over the mountains, you get the clouds to build. Then they turn into showers and thunderstorms. Then they move out into the plains. That's exactly what's going to unfold between today and through the weekend and into early next week. That's a very routine summer pattern around here where you wake up, you got blue skies, nice blue skies till about mid-afternoon. Then clouds build. Then you have those thunderstorms and they dissipate overnight. Then you repeat the whole cycle again the following day. That's where we're headed. By the weekend, you can see a big broad area of high pressure right over the Rockies and high plains. That's why it's going to be so warm this weekend as desert air gets poured in. That upper level low in California that is down here now gets drawn into the jet stream. And then what will happen is by the middle of next week, this is by next Wednesday and Thursday, it gets pushed inland. Now, this is not guaranteed yet, but if this happens, the middle to the end of next week, we will see shower and thunderstorm activity increase, especially west of the Continental Divide where they need it. Really need rain west of the divide. Looks like there might be some on the way next week and out into the plains as well. Now let's give you an La Nina update. These are sea surface temperatures relative to average as of about a week ago. Notice this line of blue right along the equator. This is the cooling trend we've been talking about in the subtropical Pacific. This is so important because so much of what drives the weather in the whole world happens near the equator and especially in the Pacific. Those warm subtropical waters feed a lot of moisture and energy into the atmosphere, and when the water temperatures change there, it really changes things quite a bit. But you can also see a lot of yellow. Sea surface temperatures are still above average across most of the Atlantic, especially here in the breeding ground for hurricanes and tropical storms. Also in the Gulf of Mexico, still pretty warm up in the northern Pacific. But the heat content of the oceans is dropping, and part of that is because of the decrease in solar activity. Look at the heat content and how much it's changed. Now, where you see the orange here, this is looking along these latitudes out in the Pacific. Notice that really since the fall, these aren't terribly warm, but the sea surface temperatures in some key areas of the Pacific have had some heat. They've been a little bit above average, not El Nino, but just below that. But notice once we got into April and into May here, the heat content has really, really gone down. And that is being picked up by the computer modeling. This is where we are right now if you were to take a look at average sea surface temperatures out in the key areas of the Pacific. But notice this is what we'd call the average line. When you drop below this line, you're in La Nina, or at least in a weak La Nina phase. Above that line, you're in El Nino. Now, the modeling is still a little in disagreement, but you expect that this time of year. But really what's important to point out here is that we're looking at a lot of the modeling taking us into La Nina territory. This model right here into strong La Nina, or at least moderate La Nina territory by the fall and early winter. And there's a lot of things to support a La Nina. Right now, the lack of solar activity, this drop in sea surface temperatures that we're seeing is consistent with the formation of a La Nina. And we've seen this before. Where we are in the solar cycle tends to bring on La Ninas, some stronger than others. The important thing about La Ninas in the western United States, at least for the interior west and the western high plains and the southern plains, is it's a dry signal. And we're starting to I think we're starting to see some of the dryness, especially west of the Continental Divide, because of this developing La Nina. Now, we tend to see it reach its peak strength late fall and winter into spring, but we may be seeing some of the signs of it already, just the beginning signs of it with some of the drier weather that started to develop. It's something that we're going to keep a very close eye on through the summer season, especially by fall and early winter. One thing to highlight, with the oncoming La Nina and with the fact that the Atlantic and the Gulf of Mexico is warmer than average, it's going to be a busy hurricane season, one of the bigger hurricane seasons we've seen in a while. We have Tropical Storm Bertha coming up here over the next couple of days. The Carolinas about ready to get a bunch of rain. Florida, which needs the rain, going to get wet as well. But we're already seeing tropical activity. It's going to be a busy summer and fall of tropical activity. Warm water temperatures out in the Atlantic and a La Nina. A La Nina forming. El Ninos and La Ninas do impact hurricane activity. When you have El Ninos, hurricane activity drops. When you have La Ninas, they pick up. So something that we'll keep an eye on this summer and fall as well. Thanks for listening and watching the Day Weather Podcast. Have a great Wednesday and enjoy the summer weather.